Now, the UN envoy to Yemen, Martin Griffiths, has arrived in the capital Sana'a for crunch talks aimed at averting all-out fighting for the port of Hodeidah. Gun battles in the city resumed despite pressure from the West to end a conflict that has pushed Yemen towards famine. According to the charity Save the Children, almost 85,000 children under the age of 5 have starved to death since the fighting started. There are 14 million people in Yemen at risk of famine. 2.2 million of them are children. And according to the UN, some 400,000 young people will suffer severe malnutrition this year. Well, joining me now here in the studio is Bhanu Bhatnagar, the spokesman for Save the Children. Bhanu, you know, when you look at the pictures and those statistics, they are so heartbreaking. And the longer this conflict continues, the more at risk those children will be.
Absolutely. Look, we've conducted this research at Save the Children where we looked at the number of untreated cases of children that had severe acute malnutrition right across the conflict from 2015 to now. And we were shocked to discover that around 85,000, and that's actually a conservative estimate. We think it could be far higher. This is a conflict that's raged for 4 years, and the sad thing is these 85,000 children are malnourished not because of a drought or because of a natural disaster, but from an entirely man-made catastrophe. And the Saudi-led coalition and the Houthi rebels, as well as the Yemeni government, and actually their international backers, have allowed the situation to get so bad for children.
And charities like your own are calling for an immediate ceasefire. There were hopes that would happen earlier this week, but that hasn't happened. How imperative is it for the people of Yemen that the fighting stops?
Look, we continue to work on the front lines as an NGO, as do a lot of our other partner organizations. Save the Children has fed around 140,000 children over the last couple of years, but it's really just a sticking plaster. Like you said, we're talking about 400,000, almost 500,000 children who are on the verge of dying from hunger, from starvation. We need to see an end to the fighting, quite simply. We can't keep being in this sort of, you know, fight or flight mode as NGOs, just trying to catch up with ourselves. The fighting has to stop. Access has to be given to commercial and humanitarian imports, and so that the economy can start to recover. You have to remember, Yemen was the poorest country in the Middle East before this conflict started. This conflict has really put the country on its knees, and an entire generation of children is now at risk.
And the tragedy is that this is not just an internal conflict. There are several foreign players involved in the war in Yemen, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Iran. What needs to be done to put more pressure on those parties to see that Yemen needs them to stop the fighting?
Look, I think you hit it right on the nail there with the word pressure. You know, we campaign here in the UK calling on the UK government to apply more pressure on its ally Saudi Arabia. The US should be doing the same. The point is, British weapons are sold to the Saudi coalition, as are American weapons, and those weapons could be used to kill children and civilians in Yemen. Iran, America, UK all have an obligation, as does Saudi Arabia, to come to the negotiating table and negotiate with Martin Griffiths in good faith. We really hope to see that they will show up to Sweden, where we're expecting to see these peace talks in December, but actually not just show up just for the sake of it, but show up for the sake of Yemeni children, because if they don't figure out a solution to this crisis, we will see children dying in their hundreds of thousands. It
is an appalling situation. I think everyone knows it needs to end. Bhanu, thank you very much indeed for that. Bhanu Bhatnagar from Save the Children there.